bed at 9:30. Like, there's no time for social media. So it's very easy for me not to, when you schedule and respect your time and you're, doing what you want to do or plugging in what you just, it's just being a good steward of time. That's all I do now. I don't know. Social media is not an issue for me. It's something I do and I like, and then I shut it off. I don't even shut it off. I just go about my day. Like, I don't have time for it. It's really kind of it. And
that's amazing.
I think for anyone listening, like, people look at my life now 10 years later and see these things and they're like, wow, it must be nice. Like, you have all this time. Of course, you do whatever you want. You like your routine and you just float about your day and, master and you eat and you watch Twilight and blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, must be nice, because I have to work 9 to 5 and then I got to work and then I have a bus ride home and then it's 7 p.m. and I have to cook and I go to bed at 9. What am I, how do I do this? And I was, I've been there, came from nothing, did the corporate thing, did the double job thing. And then B, it's like, just start implementing one small thing of your dream life, that you think is your dream life as of now. And that'll change once you hit your dream life. But that's what I started doing for me was like, okay, I can get up early and journal. Like, that's free. It doesn't cost me anything. The only thing it costs me is one less Office episode before bed, and so I would just do that once a week, not even every day. Like, that's, I'm just such a big believer now because I've seen it work so well in my life and others when I help them out is like, let's practice the one thing, one time, once a week and see how you do for the first 6 months. And then it's like, most people fail and that's fine. That's part of life. Like, you just try again. That's one of the great things about life. You just try again. You missed your day of journaling. That's fine. Do it tomorrow, or do it.
Have you read the Duhigg book? What's it called? The Power of Habit. Charles Duhigg, I think.
No, but I have this book called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and it's probably a book. I bet
it's probably I've heard of that one as well.
Yeah,
and that I think it's a similar book.
Talks a lot about that. But I found that to change my life. Like, I found small discipline and being so gracious because none of us have ever done this life before. We've never done this career. I've never done a career in mastering, at least to my knowledge. This is my only existence, pretty sure. That, like, why would I be an expert at any of these things yet? It's such an unfair level to hold yourself to, a standard. And that's where, like, a lot of young guys in town, I'm 32 now, 7 years in, so there's young guys now in town.
You're still at the beginning of your career. Like, let's be honest.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
I'm 32 also, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just getting started.
Oh, that's
like,
how,
seriously.
I tell my wife all the time, like, oh, you think, like, she knows too. She's like, oh, you're just getting started. She's like, people think you're, like, in it, like, crushing it. We're just barely starting. But that's
totally.
The younger guys, even Josh, like, I mentored Josh for a bit, and he's a wonderful person, and his biggest thing, he's so dang talented, and he is like everyone else. He lacks the patience right now, where it's like the work you think you should be getting or the work you desire or whatever, it's like, it's just not for you yet. Like, do you have the talent to do it? Probably, but the timing's just not there yet. Like, you don't have the relationships yet, or you haven't, a lot of it too is like, this is something this is the reality check that a lot of people need. And I had to have this hit me in the face one time with a label project, one of my first ones when I totally botched it, was like, I'm not ready for the work I desire. Like, I'm not there. Like, the things I think I should be doing, people like, oh, I want to just work on a Justin Bieber album or something. And it's like, you don't understand what that requires. Stressful, emotion, skill, hours, time, money, resources. Like, the bigger the project I do, the more it takes out of you and the more you have to have, like, your tank 100% filled, because it just requires more. The stakes are higher. There's lots more people involved. Everybody has a say, and you have to, one of the biggest things I tell people is, like, at the high level, I am just in the people management world. That's what I do. I manage people at this stage. At the high level of label levels, bigger artists, I'm just at the mastering stage. Everybody's mad, usually. Everybody's out of budget. We're out of time. the guitar player hates the guitar tone, and somebody hates this song, but the A&R wants it because he thinks that's the radio single. And you have all these people who are coming to me saying, just fix everything via mastering. Like, make these people's personal problems and preferences. And the lead singer's wife now has an opinion on the loudness because she listened to a Ellie Goulding song. And it's like, what? Okay. Like, you spend at this higher level, and this is stuff people don't talk about, is like, I manage people at the bigger level projects. And it's why I love indie work, because indie work's like, I have a couple people, maybe one person, they like what they're doing, they're in charge, they're responsible, they send it to me, I do a good job, they like it, we're done. Everybody's happy, yay, we move on. Label stuff, it's like, oh my gosh. You could have the album done, wrapped, ready for pressing. Like, well, we think we need a different singer because this girl's now more popular on social media than the original girl. So let's swap her out and redo the whole mix. God. Like, that's happened to me. Like, there are things like that where that happens. And so you learn how to people manage. Like, if you're not people managing, then you're going to fail at the high level. And that's probably like, wisdom. You people manage at the low level too, but that's probably the thing that keeps people from succeeding in this industry is everything's personal for them. They take every revision as an attack. They think everybody like, when I first started, it was like, oh, something's too bassy. So I'd be like, the kick drum sucks. Like, you need to fix all these things for me to master it. And they're like, well, we like the mix. And I'm like, well, that's wrong. They're like, well, no,
you can't
it's
do
not.
that.
Like, they're like, well, okay, we'll go somewhere else. Like, we're not looking for you to mix our song. We're looking for you to master the song.
Right.
And
the
that
number
was a
one
big
rule,
thing for me to be like,
this is coming from like Andrew Sheps on the Working Class Audio podcast, is just don't be a dick, right? That's like the number one rule.
That's it, man. That's number one rule. Anybody who's been a dick that I know is no longer in the industry. Like, you can't make it.
You can't sustain being a dick.
You can't. You can't sustain having to be right all the time. I always tell myself, you don't have to be right. You don't have to change anyone's mind. That's a mantra every day I write out. You don't have to be right. You don't have to change anyone's mind. Just serve the client. And that's it. It's their art. I'm here to interpret it and help them. But at the end of the day, I'm in the service industry. They're hiring me. They can go 1,000 other places. They're hiring me for my, sometimes for my taste. Sometimes they're just hiring me to not touch things, which isn't always what I do. I try to make it clear, like, I'm not really that guy who, like, if you think your mix is perfect as a mixer and you think you've already mastered it because you can't allow anyone else to touch it because you think you're the best, I'm not your master engineer, most likely. Like, because I don't work that way. Like, there are certain mixers in town that I've worked with where they're like, hey, don't do anything because this is perfect and you can't possibly improve it. And so then I say, well, don't hire me. Like, I'm not your guy. Like, that's not the part of the creative process I'm part of. So those types of guys, like, who basically brick wall and limit, and they're not doing it out of like mix taste. They're doing it because they're scared. They're insecure. They're insecure that someone else will mess up their perfect mix. And that's just silly. Like, we're all here to add value. Exactly.
Anyways, like,
so those sorts of people exist, and they're super successful too. Like, there's lots of guys who do that and are super successful. And there's a lot of guys who have probably messed up their mix, and have done a bad job at the mastering stage. But anyway, it's...
Yeah, that's probably me.
It's all of us. We've all done that, But that's early on. Like, for me, it was...
Yeah.
I manage people at this stage. The amount of communication I have with, hundreds of clients a week now, and it's labels to indie to, new people who are like, I've never had a song mastered ever. And then you got somebody who's like, this is the 1,000th song we've sent you over 10 years. And you're just like, wow, okay. It's just a lot of management, and it's a lot of serving and a lot of listening and communicating and interpreting, what are you saying and how can I best interpret that? So that's kind of like, that's another little tidbit of what I've learned in 10 years. So
I kind of want to this is actually like one of the most I don't know, deep thinking kind of interviews I've ever had. Like, I love it. This is kind of more of like a technical or like administrative question.
Yes.
If you're willing to veer into a slightly different direction.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, like you probably have so many clients and projects going on simultaneously. Like, what's your approach to staying organized and managing all of that?
Ooh, it's a great question.
Like mastering engineers notoriously have the most amount of clients, right? Like,
yes, we do. Man, I've tried like every software known to man to organize things, and CRM stuff and automated stuff. And at the end of the day, for my workflow, I basically have a ongoing spreadsheet of work, what the project is at, what stage it's at. And then I have a Google Doc, used to be a sticky note called Do These Things, and I have a whole blog on it. It's called Do These Things. I started that like 4 years ago when I started changing everything. And Do These Things is just my list. It's to free up headspace all day long. It's just, what am I doing today? So the Do These Things list will have like, podcast today at noon, 1 hour and 30 minutes, do that. 2 o'clock, master this album, blah, blah, client, send, blah, blah, blah. Number 3, waiting on files, blah, 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 respond, follow-up email. And I put times next to everything, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 27 minutes, And I only know that because I started documenting how long things actually take to do, which is one of the best things you can do to free up time.
Yeah, just get Toggle and start calculating.
Yes. So I do that. So every day I have my Do These Things list, which is like my present moment. What am I doing today? And then I have a calendar, just Apple Calendar, that gets plugged in with all my session stuff. And that's pretty much it. Like I use the only things I find to be of super value for me so far in life. PayDirt is my invoice thing. It's super straightforward. It's an online company. It's invoicing 101. They accept lots of payments. You can print off at the end of the year just your spreadsheet. I used to do QuickBooks and things and self-employment stuff, and tax is so strange with self-employment that all of those programs made it more complicated at the end of the day. To really get the best tax advantage and documentation, I've had to do it basically manual with the same CPA she's a rock star for me. But any self-employment app I ever used, it was like it would put things in the wrong spot and it would not get as many deductions, as I was allowed, legally allowed to. So I'm kind of more of like, I have a spreadsheet every month that I keep track of my ins and outs. I take tax out, it goes into a tax pot in one of our bank accounts for tax every month because I pay that quarterly. But yeah, I love PayDirt. And then I use Mail Butler for email. And that's basically like scheduling and template building. But it's template building to where it's not like an auto thing. It's template building in that, like when I deliver a file or an onboard thing, there's certain things that I always have to educate people on. So it just dumps it into the initial email.
Totally.
And that's kind of what I do. Like I had my wife be my assistant for a while, and that was fine. But one of the things I love about my job is talking to people. Like I've had a very hard time not finding very great people who are like, I want to be your intern. I've had a dozen people say like, I'll be your intern, do your emails, whatever, blah, blah. And I had a manager for a while when I was getting busier where I was like, I need a manager. Like I need to do more work, focus on the things I'm doing and pay a manager less because I make more per hour than what I'm paying her. And it ended up just becoming this thing where I was like, this job is less fun now. Like I love talking to my clients. I love interacting with them. And I don't like when there's a middle person, and this has nothing to do with control. It's just a business thing. Like I've accepted that I may not scale like other people, who are willing to do auto things in CRM and hire assistants to respond. And that's fine. Like I've always kind of, not always, but the last like 4 or 5 years, like I just believe that if I get to a point where I'm so busy in my life that I have to have people do everyday things for me, then I might be too busy, like for myself, for what I do and what I want out of life.
You just like fully embrace the fact that you're a small business. You're serving,
exactly.
You're like that. You're B2C. You're serving client.
Yes, and that's my choice. That's
totally.
That's 100% my choice. I don't think it's the right way or the wrong way. I think it fits for what I like to do. It fits my wife and I's lifestyle, my puppy's lifestyle. Like I like freedom. I like working when I want to work. I am blessed to be at a spot 10 years into where like I pay my bills fine. I have money saved up in case something